Thank you so much for tuning in to Variety TV. I'm so excited. Me and RaqC are having a dope conversation before we even started, but let me introduce her. This beautiful Latina right here. Yes, this is RaqC. She is a TV personality and radio host, and I'm just so excited to have you today.
Thank you. You know what? It's so awesome because I think that people cross each other's lives at the perfect time.
Yes.
And we've been meaning to
meet.
And it's like life in general. It just gets so busy, and you set dates, and sometimes you can't come through. But I always, and I'm a huge believer that things happen exactly when they gotta happen. So today when we saw each other in the alley, we were like,
literally,
ah! And it was one of those things where it was like, finally.
Y'all, I was in my flip-flops running to go get this girl, and then she opened her arms. I was like, I'm coming too. I'm coming. So it was good vibes, good energy, and everything. So as I said, I'm just so excited to have you. And of course, I have to give a special thanks to Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams for providing us with this beautiful set. And you know,
and some
as
water.
I said, we got some water. I'm about to pour up. Special thanks to April Wines. Have you tried her wine
you know
collection?
what? No, but I've been wanting to try her wine collection.
Well, girl,
so today is the day.
Yes, this is my favorite. I love white wine. So
do you?
I do. I'm a white wine
I'm
type
more of
girl.
a red wine kind of girl, but I could do white wine.
Okay, so you have been super, super active in the industry on television and in radio. And one thing that I do want to point out that I admire about you is that you're very engaged with your audience. Like, I feel like you continue to stay transparent throughout all of your content. And I feel that once you get at a certain status, sometimes you lose that. So for you, how do you kind of maintain that relationship with your followers? Because, girl, you be treating them like they your homegirls, like they your friends, and I love it.
I got to say that I know that transparency is really part of my personality, right? And so I had a mentor when I first started in radio back in 2000 that told me, you know, no matter how big you make it in this industry, whether you continue to be in radio or television or whatever you choose to do with your life, just remember that, you know, your audience makes you who you are, right? So don't believe the hype, he told me. So in 2000, this guy really gave me some nuggets of knowledge, right? And so it's always been part of me to just be me, you know, like my gift, I would say, just because it's so hard, I think, nowadays for people to really truly be who they are, just because we live in a social media world and everybody gets so caught up in opinions and that some people just have so many filters on them, literally, you know. It's not even social media filters, it's filters of who they think society wants them to be. So they turn into this person and people are like, what? Like, who? Unrelatable. You know what I mean? Like, the other day I saw, and listen, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm using this as an example. The other day I saw Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott on a vacation, right?
Yes.
She's 20, he's 22, on a yacht with their kid. Let's be real. That's not real life for a lot of 20-year-olds. That is real life for you because that's what you've created for yourself. That's your family. You guys have made a living off of that. So to really touch on topics like that and be transparent, it's part of who I am. And just don't believe your hype. You know, let your audience blow you up and think you're great, but never settle and say, oh, I've made it. You know, it's always like, what can I do to be better?
With all in all, with you being vulnerable, with you being super relatable with your followers, you also provide them with events and engagements to bring everyone together. And I feel like with your events, what kind of sets them apart from others is that you are opening up the doors for them to be more vulnerable, for them to have hope, for them to love each other, for them to appreciate their walks in life, regardless of whether it doesn't look like the person next to theirs. So, you know, you had your Heartbreaks of Hope, and I love that. I know that we spoke about that earlier a couple weeks ago. How was that experience
gosh.
For you and for your guests?
You know, I'm a big believer in turning your pain into power, right? And I'm going to open dialogue when it comes to heartbreak, right? Because after heartbreak, there is hope, at least for me. Like, you know, some people become suicidal. This is real. And when I started creating this event, people that work in the mental health industry started hitting me up saying, you know what, RaqC, thank you. Thank you for creating
men in the industry.
Men and women, like, thank you for creating dialogue over topics that don't get talked about in college. Yes, we study psychology. Yes, we talk about sociology and chemistry and all this, but let's be really honest. When do you use chemistry, unless you're a chemist, or history.
I don't even like,
you know what I mean, in your daily life. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to teaching real life coping skills?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to create a event out of the pain that I'm feeling, right? So Heartbreak and Hope Live was actually an event that I created to fuel my healing in a big way, because I wanted to hear other people, and I wanted to provide that platform for people to talk about, how did you heal from your breakup? Because I'm still healing, and I'm not 100% healed, and I'm okay saying that.
You juggle so much. You know, you have your own clothing line, you have your own organization, you are also building events. How are you even maintaining all of this while continuing to grow your own personal platform?
You know what? It's part of who I am. I've always been that person, and it's a good, I choose to look at it more of a good thing than a bad thing, because sometimes I just want to shut my brain off and it just doesn't turn off, you know? But from my brain and from my excitement and from my passion comes events, right? Like, I already have, if you thought Heartbreak and Hope was good, I have these other events coming up.
Ooh, we're going to have to stay tuned.
Yes,
I want to
stay
go
tuned.
I'm going to go to your next one
Stay
for sure.
tuned, because there's so many things that we can talk about that they're not teaching. Listen, I am a humongous advocate for education. Go get your education, get your degree, do whatever you got to do. But my thing is, in college, they're not teaching you real life coping skills. They're not teaching you about mental health. They're not teaching you about finances. They're not teaching you about just real life stuff that we need to know,
that are actually being implemented in our daily walks of life.
They're not telling you, like, hey, it's okay to go get therapy if you feel like you're going crazy. It doesn't mean you're crazy if you need to go get therapy and talk to a therapist. And so I want to create events that are teaching people real life coping skills of the stuff that you're really dealing with in real life. You know what I mean? Yes, there's programs and there's events that will teach you about, you know, how to clear your student debt and all that, but what are you doing with your emotions? You know, are you writing down your emotions? It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. How are you dealing? Because then you hear these crazy stories on the news, like man goes fatal and kills his wife and kills his kids, and you're like, what did that man need that could have avoided this entire pattern, or this whole family that is now disturbed, and now the kids are in child protective services? This man didn't have anybody to talk to.
You do have this very bubbly, big ball of energy, as even you stated on your Instagram and your bio. How do you cope with getting stressed out or even being defeated? Because, girl, being an entrepreneur, you make it seem so easy because you're always so happy.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, but I know that there's times you run into that wall and you're like, okay, is this really my calling? Is this something I really want to do? And you become defeated, and you become like, I don't really want to do this no more because it's too hard, or, you know, I'm not really seeing my vision come to life. So how do you deal with that? How do you handle that for the ones who are stuck?
Oh man, I get a lot of moments when I'm stuck. I mean, I think that's just part of being human. And I think when I'm stuck, it's when I'm really in my head. Right? Because we will get in our own way a lot of times. You know, the self-doubt when you're an entrepreneur is real. You're just like, oh my gosh, because you're self-funding a lot of the times. You're self-funding yourself. You're fueling yourself. And I've learned as an entrepreneur, like, I am not always going to have my mentors by my side. They're not always going to be available for me. So what do I gotta do to tap into me to refuel myself? And so a lot of times it's hard for me to be quiet. Right? People talk about, meditation and yoga, and I do yoga, but sometimes meditating for me is challenging. You know, I know you hear a lot of articles like, oh, it's all about meditation,
and you're
it's all about getting quiet.
And then you're hearing like chirp, chirp, chirp in the back.
And like, and as I'm trying to be quiet and meditate, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this to do, and I have this to do, and I have this to do. And that's the reality about meditation. Sometimes when I'm trying to be quiet is when I get the most ideas, which is a good thing.
You know, I think that being a part of, you know, this whole entrepreneurial world, it's so important to understand the business, right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about, this is a very basic question, but how do you feel about being in the corporate world in comparison to having your own and making your own money?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a great question. Just because I, you know, for many, many, many years in LA, I worked on radio in LA. And when you work for a corporate brand, you feel validated. Right? You're like, I work for E! News, and here's my business card. Or I work for Universal. I work for this, and I do, you know, you work for a corporation. You work for a media company that is a giant in the game, right? So that was my story. for many, many years.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, what do you do? I'm a radio personality. I work for, oh,
You
great.
felt official,
and
yeah.
people wanted to hire you because of it. And they wanted to say, oh my God, come host my club and do this and do that. So the game changes when you become an independent brand. And so what I noticed is that I had to have this whole reanalyzation with myself. I had to literally look in the mirror and say, okay, you're not working for a big corporation anymore. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because a lot of people won't hire you and they won't work with you because they don't feel like you have that plug or that power, right? Because you're not associated to a big brand anymore. So who are you? So I had that dialogue with myself, Mariah, where I had to look at myself, and I literally at one point when I wasn't working on that with that corporation anymore, I felt I had no value.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never felt this before.
Yeah.
Because I am powerful and I am valuable to anything that I come across, right? But the company was adding that validation to who I was. But I literally had to check myself and believe in myself, and not depend on anybody but myself to say, you're amazing, you're valuable, you got this, and you will continue to book gigs. And everything you bring to the table is why people were hiring you in the first place. So that struggle for me, crossing from corporate to being my own independent brand, going on 3 years now, was real. It was real. It was challenging. But you know what? I'm doing it. As women, we rise, we figure it out.
Absolutely.
And listen, I have this saying that says, do what you have to do to get where you got to be, right? And whatever that means to you, it's whatever that means to you. They're doing what they got to do to make things happen. And so I'm going to do what I got to do to make things happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, you are amazing, RaqC. You already have a large following, but for the people who are watching who aren't following you, where can we find you?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. My handle is at RaqC's World. And so one thing that makes me different is I spell RaqC very differently.
You know what? And that's what confused, because I was like, I know her name is Raquel, but then like it's not RaqC, it's not ROXY, it's RAQ.
Because my first name is Raquel, my last name is Cordova.
Yes.
So it's RAQ capital C. So that's
it's pronounced RaqC.
Yes. So when you type in RAQ capital C on Instagram, I am the only person on all of Instagram that my name is spelled differently.
See, that right there is good branding.
Yes. And my account is verified on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I have the blue little check mark, and brands really love that when it comes to branding advice.
Look more official.
You know, like, do what you got to do to get verified, because brands love to know that they're working with somebody that is you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so thank you, Mariah. I'm proud of women like you too.
Come on, let's make a toast. Let's make a toast to success.
Yes.
Woman entrepreneurship and being badasses in the game.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
I heard that. Cheers to that.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, we will see you later.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.